Welcome to Wild Shift episode number 5. My name is Tsach, and over the past few years, I've been reflecting on my life in my home country and the choices that led me to where I am today. In this podcast, I dive into the stories of people who have made bold changes in their lives, leaving behind comfort for something new and unknown. Join me as I explore what inspired them to take these leaps and discover the impact of their decisions. If you enjoy this episode, please share it with others. And today's episode with Veronika Vee was truly insightful. We dove deep into powerful topics like how we are interconnected as tribes, the fear of rejection, and how to better understand our safety mechanism. Our conversation opened my eyes to new perspectives on navigating these core aspects of a human experience. Veronika, with her extensive expertise as a Tantra facilitator and Reiki Master, shared so much wisdom. She co-facilitates the world-famous Tantra from the Heart retreats, hosts her own events, and offers private Tantra sessions for both couples and individuals. I had an amazing time with Veronika, and our conversation was both fun and heart-opening. Let's dive in. So I'm here with Veronika. So I met Veronika actually last week.
Yes. It seems like forever.
It seems like forever, and it seems like a long time ago,
Yes.
because I feel
Right.
like I went into like this kind of like, I don't know, turbulence or whatever it is. I'm in a different planet. So I found out about this retreat called Tantra from the Heart. I actually found it out like half a year ago. And many people were like, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready and I don't know what to expect, but you know what? Like, I will try in the future. And during that half a year, like, I'm coming across a lot of people, and like, I just like did that immersion, Tantra from the Heart. It's like 5 days, 12 hours a day.
Yes.
Super intense, super powerful, super profound. You have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it. And I was like, you know what? I'll try. Why not? Like, I'll try. Like, and I would also ask them, like, what's the session? What's the retreat about? And they would just not say anything. They will not say anything, and that made me even more curious to do that. You know. So I did it last week or a week and a half ago, and you are the facilitator of that retreat.
Co-facilitator.
Co-facilitator. And I have to say, like, I ended up this retreat, this immersion, workshops, and wow, it was powerful, it was profound, life-changing. And I'm pretty skeptical about stuff, in general, like retreats and workshops, but this really opened my heart and my mind and everything together. And I'm trying to explain that to people, like about the retreat, and I'm like, and they were like, "Oh, so you were naked all the time? Like, is it like, did you like orgies? Like, what was the workshops about? What was the retreats about? Can you help me? Like, how would you help
What
me?
do you say? What do you respond?
Yeah, what to respond? How to explain? Just to have more clarity.
I think what you said so beautiful for yourself, it opened you up. It is very individual for everyone what really happens in the immersion and also afterwards. And I must say, the group that you were in, every group is so special and every group is so different. But there was something really beautiful in this group. There was so much connection, and the group was really holding each other and supporting each other, while at the same time, people were really taking responsibility. But what you say, for me, Tantra, it's all about connecting deeper to life, connecting deeper to yourself, and from that place, connecting deeper to other people. And for me, it was life-changing. Yeah, definitely. For me, every immersion it's still a little bit life-changing.
Yeah.
Because we always go through a portal. Like, we go in, for 5 days, the world outside is not really existing anymore. You come out and you're what did just happen again? So the process is always going on for all of us also. And when I speak about it, I really say we do work with the sexual energy, but there's so much more than sexuality. And it is working with the full body, mind, and soul. Different practices, meditation, breath work, connection exercises, rituals. And it's an experience. So in a way, it's not so easy to explain. We always try out like testimonials, and I think what shows the most is people before and after, actually.
Yes.
And that's also the feedback that a lot of people get from their friends. It's like, okay, I don't fully understand what you did there. I don't fully understand what they're doing, but you seem to be changed, and you seem to be more open, more glowing,
Totally.
more connected to yourself.
Yeah.
So basically, it doesn't matter so much what we're doing. It's more like, okay, what's the, what's the outcome?
What's the outcome?
But I think it's much more soft and sweet that people expect, actually. I think especially in the Western world, people associate Tantra with like, yeah, a lot of sexuality and nakedness.
Yes.
And it is more sweet, I would say. And at the same time, also like very deep and very powerful.
Yes, definitely. And like I noticed that every person, because I was talking to a lot of people from the immersion, everyone took just a different input. And for me, I can share about myself personally speaking. Like I took a lot of like, I mean, I came with no intention to that retreat. Like I didn't know what to expect, so I didn't know what to intend. But I took a lot of like, it taught me a lot about myself in terms of boundaries, rejections, loving energy, just like amazing energy, like just to know my body and to know what to want more. It's not even a little bit more, it's just more. And I was so grateful to have that tool that you guys are providing to people. And I think, and I'm not trying to market it, but I think this is really something that every person should go through, like that self-learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was super profound. When did you start yourself doing it? Like when did you discover Tantra for the first time?
Tantra came into my consciousness, I would say like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. Because it was something I was really drawn to without being able to explain it. And back then I was living in Berlin. I was really immersed into spirituality, but Tantra was not so much yet part of my life or part of the people around me, or even like my friends and family, they had nothing to do with Tantra.
Yeah.
But it was really something that was calling me, and I really felt like, ooh, there's something in there for me, without being able to fully understand what it is. I started to read a lot about it. I started to do like some little workshops in Berlin, but I couldn't fully connect to the scene there. And there weren't so many offerings. And then I did some rituals by myself and like listened to a lot of podcasts.
Wow.
Like podcast was really something for me during COVID also that helped me so much for my own journey. So that's why I also love to be on podcasts. And then 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I decided, okay, it's time for the next step. And I signed up for a Tantra facilitator training without, really knowing what I'm getting myself into.
Yes.
Because I found Kopangan, Tantra Island. So I came here two years ago, and I went into the school where I signed up for the Tantra facilitator training. And I realized
Here in
Kopangan.
Yeah.
And I realized like, no, this is not the right place to do a Tantra facilitator training. I just didn't resonate with the energy, the teachers. It just didn't felt right. And I think I already understood if I want to go down the tantric path, I need to listen to myself.
Yes.
And I need to listen to that feeling. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then therefore, I joined the Tantra from the Heart workshop with Leonie in August 2 years ago. So basically
Okay.
yours like 2 years ago.
Wow.
So that was the first time that I was participating.
As a participant.
As a participant. And when I went there, I felt so home, and I resonated so much with Leonie and with the spirit and with everything we did. And it had such an impact on myself. So, and I saw myself like sitting next to her, and I was like, wow, if I could ever like assist for one time, I would be like the happiest. Like this would be like the goal,
Wow.
So I reached out to her afterwards, and I said like, hey, I really would love to assist. And then it took half a year, and then I started to assist. And then relatively quick, like Tantra from the Heart took over my life.
Yeah.
And now I'm so immersed in Tantra from the Heart, and I learned so much from Leonie, and I also learned from other people. And it's such a gift for me to be part of this. And when you also said like, yeah, it was so life-changing and you would wish for everyone to do it, I think what's also so special is it's like a medicine. It's not about Leonie. It's not about the team. Like, we are a factor in it, but there's something that's so profound, and we just want to share it.
Yeah.
You know, Leonie's also, she's always like, I
Spread
just
it
want to
out.
share. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, you said something really, you said something with, probably without noticing that it was really affecting me in some ways, like, and very powerful. You said home. What made you feel home? What was that feeling?
It's so interesting because the feeling of not belonging, of not feeling at home, was with me my entire life. And I always felt like, oh, I'm not really part of this planet. Something is really off, like deep down, something is really off. And I really was looking for it for my whole life. I felt like I'm searching for something I cannot even explain what it is. And then I came to Kopangan, and for the first time, like my whole system, I felt like, oh, I'm home. The people, the conversations, the energy. And then Tantra from the Heart really deepened that. And I think something that I understand more and more, that the feeling of home or not feeling at home often also comes from the body. Oftentimes, as a soul, when we come to this planet, we're not fully embodying, we're not fully in our body, or as children we are, but then so many things are happening, and then parts of us are dissociating, parts of us are disconnecting. And for some reason, we're like, oh, I don't really feel like I'm belonging. And I think Tantra from the Heart, for me, it brought me back into my body, in connection, in real connection with other people, and also in connection with spirit. That's something that's for me like very meaningful, the sacredness and the connection that there's something more than just our body. Yeah.
You know, it's a feeling that you can't
No.
You can't describe well. I mean, it's very, very individual, but you can't really anticipate that feeling, because you need to experience and you need to feel that feeling in order to know that feeling.
Yeah.
It's it really reminds me like exactly a year ago, September 2023, when I left my original home in Israel, in Tel Aviv. I was like, I need to find a new home. I don't feel belong here so much at the moment. I need to find a new home. I heard about Copenhagen. Let's try. Why not?
Yeah.
So I came here. I brought my big notebook that I got as a gift. And I remember I had this as my first page on my notebook. Home, in big words. Home. Find a home. And you know, I'm a very practical person, and I was like, okay, let's find it. I'll go to Zen Beach. I'll go to this coffee. That will make me feel home. That will make me feel home. I was like, it's not happening. I don't feel that. I don't feel that home. So then I start like traveling around Thailand, like to like really seek for that feeling.
Okay, so you came here and then you went again.
I went around Thailand. I came with the intention, I need to find a new home. But then I was here in Copenhagen for a week, and I was like, doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel like home. I went to Krabi, I went to Phuket, I went to Chiang Mai, and I went to Pai, and I went to Khao Sok, Khao Lak, and all these places. Maybe this will be home. Maybe this will feel like home. Maybe this will feel like home. Maybe this, like really chasing after that. Really chasing. And I went back to Copenhagen a month after, and I was like, I'm surrendering. I was like traveling around Thailand for 1 month, 3 days here, 3 days here, 3 days here. And like, now I'm surrendering. And I realized when I surrendered, I know it sounds super hippie. I was like, okay, just bring whatever. Like, if I'm eliminating all the FOMO, I'm eliminating everything that I need to do. And I'm just like, I'm allowing myself to watch Netflix at home without needing to do anything. And then it came to me. It really came to me, that feeling of home. And I didn't know that it's like, you can find it. Like, without looking for it.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds weird, no? Like it's,
Right, right.
yeah.
Do you feel there's something that really added or like that makes this feeling? Like the people or the connections or is it just
I feel like it's the sense of belonging, and it's, of course, it's like the weather, and it's the nature, and it's the people, and it's the events, and like the abundance,
yeah,
the abundance.
yeah.
And for you?
I really thought when you were sharing, I also really saw like, you know, you sitting there as a group and the tribe. And I think the tribe for me is such an important part. Belonging to a group of people. And I love that in Kopangan, like I'm living here for 2 years on and off, but and I have, you know, like I have a small group of really, really, really good friends, but I know a lot of people. And there's this sense of village, you know, and of like, oh, I'm going to the 7-Eleven and I meet someone that I know, or there's people that I haven't spoken to, but I know them, like I recognize them. And there's like this little sense of like, you and me, like we're on the same journey. We're sharing something. And also that's what's happening in the immersions. People, some groups, they stay so connected afterwards. And there's people who get married, people who become really good friends. Like there's a family that's created by going through a similar experience and understanding that we were never meant to do it alone. That's the thing. Like, I think for me, for a long time, I thought like, oh, I have to do it all by myself. And also the whole healing journey and whatever, you know, like I have to figure it out and I have to hold myself and I need to be connected to myself and to self-love, and that's all amazing and that's all very important. But we were never meant to do it alone. We were always meant to be in tribe and to be in connection. And I think that's something like the people and the sense of, belonging. And also in Berlin, for example, I do felt belonged in a way that you can be anything in Berlin. Doesn't matter.
Oh,
no
yeah,
one
Berlin.
cares. No one cares.
Anything goes.
No one is judging you.
Yeah,
You know?
of course. Yeah.
But it's huge, it's massive. You can feel really lost. You can feel really like, oh, I'm in this huge city and I don't know anyone. In Kopangan, if I have a bad day and I feel really lost and I also feel like I don't really want to connect, I can still go to a place. I don't need to talk to anyone, but I see familiar faces.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't feel completely alone.
No, exactly.
No.
Exactly. And also there's I know the people in my favorite places, in my favorite restaurants. Like there is a sense of, village and tribe.
You know what's really, really interesting that you're saying? And it's like, you're really nailing it for me because I'm like, wow, okay. I had a podcast, I had an episode with Yuval Fluk, as the co-founder of Wonderland, and like many conversations around the island and monks and other people. And they all say like the human suffering is that we don't know how to be alone, and we need to know how to be alone. And that's why we see like monks like meditating on a mountain or in a cave, or like the human struggle is attachment.
Yeah.
We can't be attached. And when you're and I can really resonate to what you said about like, I really wanted to be alone. I want to like acquire that skill to be alone. I don't need anyone. I need to be a free spirit. I need to be free. I need to be alone. I need to be alone. And I was like, and I'm a very achiever person. I was like, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone.
I can handle this. Like
I
don't
can
need,
handle it.
I
I
don't
don't need anyone.
anyone.
Like, this is what I need to do. I don't want to be part of the statistics of the human struggle. Like, I'm going to be out of that system or whatever. When you're saying, like, we're part of a tribe, we can't possibly be alone all the time, or we need other people around us, I feel that. Because it gives me, like, a validation of, like, stop forcing it.
Yeah.
Stop fighting it.
Yeah.
Admit that you need people.
Yeah.
And people need you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need each other.
Yeah.
We're like wolf packs in
Yes.
some way. Like
I just thought like we're animals. Like we're monkeys.
Yeah.
This is part of our nature. And I think respecting that part of our nature, that releases a lot of suffering.
Yes. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're a developed version of a monkey, but like part of the evolution.
And I think it was so beautiful. I think I mentioned it before, like very shortly, but what I saw in your immersion, what was so beautiful was there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of suffering, there was huge transformation. There was support, like the group was really supporting each other and including and being like, you're not alone in this. And at the same time, the individual took responsibility for their own story and their own traumas and their own past. Because if you trigger me and then I feel rejected or I feel abandoned or whatever, if I can understand that you were showing me something and this is something I have to look into, but I don't have to do it alone, I can have support. I think that's like the balance, you know, of like, I am an individual, I have responsibility, I cannot put it on the other, but maybe I need someone to help me through, you know?
Yes. It's so hard to admit that, you know?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That we want to do it alone, but it's so hard to admit, like, I need you.
Yeah.
Please help me.
Yeah. I think there's different reasons. Like, I think our society, our Western society, is very individualized and very competitive and very like, this is my house, this is your house, this is my job. This, like, you know, I need to take care for myself and maybe my small family. I think in Western societies, also like in Thailand, I feel there is a bigger sense of community. They have to also, in a way, there's less safety net from government. So, you know, you better be a bit friendly to your family because you never know
Otherwise,
when you
good
need
luck in
them.
life.
When you need them. So I think it's the upbringing. And I also think it's something we talk about in immersion a lot is there were parts in our childhood situations where we got isolated and we didn't get the support we actually needed. And as a children, for example, you cannot regulate yourself. You cannot regulate your own emotions. You need the adult to regulate and also to learn.
Right.
As an adult, you can, if you've learned it, you know, in a good way. I think a lot of us don't know how to healthy regulate ourselves. I see myself, like sometimes I'm really good in healthy regulating myself or asking for support, and sometimes I'm isolating myself. So I think it's also a deep pattern in ourselves that we feel like it's not safe to actually ask, or I'm not worthy, or the other one will not come. So I better do it myself before I again feel like, oh, there's no one to help me. So I think these are two main things why it's so hard for us to actually ask for.
So you're saying rejections. That's the main reason we don't ask for help.
Yeah, I think past
Perhaps.
experiences. Yeah,
Past
as a child. Yeah.
Of being rejected or?
Of being rejected, of not being met in the way we wished to be met or we needed to be met. Because our parents maybe didn't have the capacity. Maybe they didn't even know how to handle it. Also because I think, I can only speak from my own German upbringing, no?
Right.
The tribe feeling wasn't there and the tribe support wasn't there as much as I wish for my world. And also if I want to have kids, like I want to feel like I'm in a tribe because I see it so many times that I feel like parents are overwhelmed. Like it's not even their fault that they cannot meet the child in the way.
And they were also human.
They were human and they didn't have the support. They didn't have the network, you know? So I think that's some of the reasons.
And you know, like it's so easy for us, I mean easy, I'm saying it in brackets, because it's so easy for us to do everything alone. I'm able to buy a ticket to Copenhagen, I'm able to like get an apartment, I'm able to find a job, I'm able to, or maybe like it will take me time, but this is on me.
Right.
And I'm able to buy a car, and I'm able to do an amazing project, and I'm able to go to the beach, and I'm able to drive my car or my bike. And it's all on me, but I also want to self-regulate myself. I also want to not want to. And it's so hard, and I will speak for myself, and probably other people can also resonate. Like it's also really, it's hard to understand that you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You can, but it'll be more beneficial.
Yeah, and I think, so for me what comes up is I don't want to be a burden to anyone, you know? But what I understood when I came out of my long-term relationship for 8 years, I was 28, and then that was the first time in my adult life that I was really by myself. Because before I was in a relationship, I was in another relationship, I lived with my parents. So it was the first time I really was by myself. And of course I was missing, the support and taking care of, but I also missed to give, to serve the other, to feel needed, to feel like I can do something beautiful for you. I think sometimes we forget that if we ask our friend, for example, I really I train myself in small examples because the last time I left the island, I was like, I could get a taxi to go to the pier. Or I can just ask my friends if they want to bring me. Why not? I could do it myself,
Right.
but I don't have to. So let me practice in the small things to be like, hey, would you love to do that for me? Because I realized that sometimes when we think oh, I don't want to be a burden, I don't want to ask, we actually take away the sense of I can do something for the other and how good it feels to help the other. The sense of if my friend asks me if I can do something for them, I feel like I'm needed. I feel like it's a beautiful feeling to give. And I think we underestimate how beautiful it feels to give and how much we take away from the other by not receiving.
And what a limiting belief, because, when I ask you, hey, Veronika, can you help me with something? And for me, as someone that is wanting to ask you to take from you, I'm like, no, maybe she won't want it. Maybe she's busy. I think she's busy. I don't think she likes me actually too much for her to help me. What if she rejects me? What if she won't respond to me? But what if she'll ghost me? What if she'll say yes, but she wouldn't actually want? So many reasons why, in my mind, why you wouldn't want to help me. But actually, you're so into that. And then for you, as a receiver, because I know also as a person, as a giver, sorry, I'm so grateful he asked me. I can't believe he asked me. I'm happy to help him. And maybe not.
Also,
maybe you're not interested. Maybe all of my limit. Maybe you're not interested because you're busy. You're just drinking your coconut shake, whatever.
Maybe it has nothing to do with you.
Maybe it has nothing at all. But it always has to do with me, right? Because we're all self-involved.
Right.
It has to do with me. She doesn't like me.
Yes.
Of course she doesn't like me because I'm not likable. All these thoughts. And what do you do with them? It's all for me. I would all summarize them with rejections. Rejections.
Yeah.
And for me, what actually it's not about being a burden. And maybe sometimes it will be about a burden, but it's mostly about I don't want that no, or I don't want that uncomfortable feeling that she might not want it.
Yeah.
How do you encounter that? How do I get rid of that feeling? I don't want that feeling. Can you help me?
I give you the magic.
Give me the magic.
The magic
Here,
solution.
rejection thing is gonna be acceptance. I don't know, something else. Just take it away from me.
I think rejection is the biggest, deepest human suffering that we will suffer until the end of our life. Maybe accepting that is already.
Even at work, you're interviewing for this job, but then it's I'm sorry to give you that email, but you're not accepted. We found another candidate or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
For me, that was the theme of my first immersion when I was a participant. And what I realized, and you said it so beautiful, all these things that you're saying to yourself, I realized when I don't ask the other, when I don't ask life for what I actually want, I'm already rejecting myself. So I say no to myself. So I better ask, because otherwise I already got the no from myself. I have a desire, I want that, but no, let's not do that because of all the reasons you mentioned. Let's just not go there. So what does it mean? I say no to myself. I already reject myself. So isn't it, in that sense, much easier to ask and to be maybe it is a no. But in some situations I find it easy. And in some situations, I find it not easy at all whatsoever. But it is so deep in us. And I think there is no magical solution, but it's something we can learn and practice to feel actually what is under the rejection. Because when we feel rejected, when we feel this like something inside of me is dying, for me, what happens often is an automatic wall comes up and I disconnect myself. It's like that's like my standard internalized response. There's like a protection coming up, and I'm like, and then maybe I even reject the other. Oh, I didn't. If I would ask you, I ask you, no, it's a podcast.
Yes.
And then if you would have said no, maybe I would create a story about you that, oh, it wasn't even so amazing. Oh, no, I think I didn't even
Actually, I don't
want.
think I want it.
Exactly, exactly. So let me just create something that I didn't really wanted it.
How do we
How do we get out of
quiet these
this?
voices? Bring it to me. Come on, this is the real material.
I think it's the deep, deep, deep. So as a child, when we get rejected, and it can be very small, no? It can be like, hey, mommy, I want to hug you. And mommy doesn't have time for you right now because she's busy cooking, whatever. Like, she's not rejecting you, she just doesn't have time, but you feel like it's a rejection. Or it can also be your parents are splitting up, or it can be many different things. Can be small things, can be very traumatic things. As a child, we have only one mechanism in order to bring order into the world. It's like we need to think it has something to do with us, because that's the only thing we think we have control over. If the next time I behave differently, maybe then mommy has time. If I only do that for school, if I become such an amazing high achiever, maybe then I'm lovable, maybe then. So I need to internalize it in myself. I need to think it has something to do with me.
Yeah.
And as a child, that's the only story we can create.
Yeah.
We don't have capacity to understand, oh, maybe mommy's just really busy.
Yeah. And you know, like, let's be frank, and sometimes it is about you.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not about how many times you received or I received, you know, like, it's not you, it's me. And
Right.
It's actually bullshit. It's me.
Sometimes it is.
You know?
So I think it's good to have really good friends who give you a good reflection, who give you an honest reflection, be like, Veronika, I think this has nothing to do with you. And maybe there you could have do something differently, you know? I think having really good friends who reflect back to you and to help you to see a bit clearer in a picture, I think that's really amazing. I think something like the immersion, you know,
Yeah,
can really help.
it does.
Days like practices and inner child healing. And I think there's so many things we can do. And at the same time, understanding that this is a big topic that we will always work on.
You know,
I cannot give you the magic.
no, okay.
Stick.
I'll take it with me.
But maybe you can, I don't know if you want to share if it happened in the immersion, or how also in the immersion maybe something changed.
Yes.
Or
So definitely. So thank you for asking that. Yes. So during the immersion, I was kind of like, I was like, you know, like it's like random. You know, we pick each other randomly. Like
Yeah.
A guy meet a girl, a guy meet a guy, a girl meet a girl, and like it's all random. And I decided
how
to.
random is it really?
You know,
Spirit.
people
we
say
always say like spirit brings together exactly
I'm
what
so
needs
naive
to
when
bring
you're saying
together.
that, and other
like,
person said that. I'm so naive by thinking it's random because
mean,
for me it was random.
it is random, but at the same time, you know, I think there's, I mean, of course, everybody has like intentions and
Yeah.
whatever, but also what we observe and what I experience for myself, there is something like this, an intelligent energy that brings together exactly the right persons, and it will exactly the right thing will happen. It doesn't always look the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
But there is something, I think there is something really intelligent
Like
in
definitely,
life.
like I was pulled to people that I wanted to be pulled, but
Yeah.
I never ended up with these people.
No?
And I'll be like, oh, this guy looks so good. I feel like I want to do that immersion with this person. And then like, whoop, and I get this another person, and like, breathe in, breathe out. And you know,
But you felt you got the right out of it in overall?
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
100%. With every session, whether I want that person to be with me or not, or maybe the other person didn't want me or whatever, I received the lesson 100%, even more than 100.
Yeah.
I think, generally speaking, it's harder for men to be with men.
Yeah.
Probably
Yes.
because of like society beliefs or barriers. like generally speaking, women feel more comfortable with women, and men feels
Yes.
like more like ego, like masculine ego.
Women sometimes tend to too quickly work with women because they feel safe. So we always encourage them to do whatever it feels good. But sometimes for women, it's good to actually work with men to experience the safety there also. And for men, it's beautiful to open up also to see. One participant said it's so beautiful when he was sharing about touching another man.
A guy participant, a man.
Yes, a male participant.
Okay.
And what it brought up. And then he changed the archetype and he was like, I saw him as a brother.
Interesting.
And then it was so beautiful to touch him.
Wow.
And I think that's something that also, like how we see and what archetypes. And I think men, it's more like competition, warrior. Like, I think like we need to, in a good way, re-brainwash ourselves. You know, like we need to bring in new beliefs, new patterns, new experiences, to override the old neural connections.
Okay.
Because what's happening also in the brain is like there is, there's a saying, cells that fire together, like they stick together. Like it's almost like it's a like highway in your brain that you've been driving so many times. Like you've been there with your car so many times. You know the street. This is a familiar street. If it's good or not, if it's negative or positive, it doesn't matter. It's just familiar. So it takes time to create new, to believe in new experiences, you know, because the past is so in ourselves. So really it needs time.
Yeah.
And the word being curious and the word to cure is connected. For me, when I heard that, when I realized that, it changed so much because I was like, okay, in order to cure, to heal myself, I need to be curious about myself. I need to be curious about the situation. Okay, this man is rejecting me. This brings up so much. It's a bit out of league. Also understanding when it's a bit out of proportion. You know? Like,
Don't tell me that.
my reaction seems to be a little bit out of
A
proportion.
little bit dramatic.
Again, I think like good
We need
friends.
another podcast for like being unproportional, you know?
And when you have these unproportional reactions, if you understand, oh, this is a trauma response. This is like a response that it's too big for that situation.
Yeah.
So let me be curious what's actually going on. Because it's not necessarily that situation. It's like, okay, what's under that? And I think if you can look at yourself in a curious way, that already relaxes a lot. Because then you're like, okay, I don't need to have it already figured out. I also want to say, with me saying all these amazing things, or maybe it's not even so amazing, but you know, I'm still on the like, I haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Yeah. We're all work in progress. Yes, of course.
And also one thing I really learned from Leonie is you can be a work in progress and a piece of art at the same time. You're already whole and amazing, and there's nothing wrong with you, and you can deeply struggle. So also finding the part in yourself that is already whole and reconnecting to that over and over again, and then also seeing the parts that are completely overwhelmed, that feel rejected, that don't know how to handle it. In Tantra, it's also about like the contradictions and this understanding that we are spirit and soul, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's internally one.
Yes.
But we have a human experience, and in this human experience, we're very messy. Maybe we are very, messed up, broken, whatever. So seeing yourself as like a mystery, not that you need to solve. I saw myself for a long time as a riddle I need to solve.
A riddle you need to solve.
A riddle I need to solve. Now I'm transitioning to like, I'm a great mystery to myself. Can I be curious? Can I be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, why is this part now coming up? I'm very confused about that. Why am I overreacting here? but see it more as like, yeah, as a mystery. Like the universe is a mystery. The whole life is a mystery. But there's nothing wrong with it.
Wow. It's very interesting. And actually, sometimes, like when I take myself too seriously, like I'm just that little voice. It's somewhere there. It's just like, you're so stupid, and I start laughing.
Right.
I mean, during the immersion, like I went back home and then I started crying for probably no reason, or probably there was a reason, and I was crying and then I was laughing at myself.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is like interesting
Mm-hmm.
because I'm curious,
Right.
and when I'm in the mode of like curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand that I'm curious,
Mm-hmm.
versus I'm really into the deep shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to get out of it.
Yeah.
But when I'm laughing at myself in some ways, and I'm like, look what you did, you stupid. Look, and I'm like, wow, this is so me to do, like, what were you thinking? But those days, good try,
Yeah.
try again.
Yeah.
Like you asked Veronika,
Yes.
you asked Veronika out, and she rejected you, and like I can be in the deep shit, like I'm not this, I'm not that, but actually, like, good job, you went to the highest.
You put yourself out there.
You put yourself out there. Try again.
Right.
Try
right,
again. It's funny.
Right.
Sometimes I have this little voice, and I need to remind myself that
Yeah.
this voice exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to take ourselves
Yeah.
too seriously.
Yes. And it's the stories we're telling ourselves. We are storytellers. And the stories, our mind always tries to validate our stories. So if we start telling ourselves different stories of, for example, rejection is redirection.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this person rejected me. Maybe I didn't get the house. Maybe no one came to my workshop. Okay, maybe this is not the right thing for me. And I think there's always two things. I think you shouldn't be like spiritually naive and be like, oh, rejection is redirection, it's just like, it also, it has nothing to do with me. Like the universe is just guiding me. Yes. And is there something you can learn out of it? Is there something you can take with you, something you can learn? And at the same time, stand up and be like, okay, this was not the right thing. Or, I mean, kids, look at kids. They come into the world and basically they always fail the whole time. They try to, they want to like walk. You know how many times they need to stand up in order to walk? If they would give up and be like, I think walking is just not for me.
Yeah.
No, this is not how it works. But kids are like emotional fluid. Kids are curious. Kids are connected for a long time. And I think then life can start to come in and then it gets hard. But for a long time, they're really connected to unconditional love. And they really feel like their life force energy is running so freely through them that they're just like, never mind. Like they can cry for 2 seconds and then you come and then like, okay, now I'm laughing. And like they are like a bit, if you would behave like an adult, as kids do, people would say you're a bit mental.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you're crying, now you're this, now you're this, now you're
Yeah.
this. But this is what we have to learn again, to relearn again. I think to remember again. And I think supporting each other and reminding each other and be like, okay, Zach, this is how you feel right now, and this is very valid, and let's look at it. And at the same time, let's bring in some humor. Let's bring in like, okay, is it really true? Like, are you really someone who's not lovable? Like, is that really the reality? No, I don't think so.
Wow. And also what really comes to me is avoidance. Like, children doesn't avoid, they don't think twice before they cry. They don't think twice before they throw the glass into the floor because they're angry, because they didn't get the candy or whatever. They don't, or when they laugh, they don't avoid these feelings. And then, we have these feelings sometimes when all we want to do is avoid.
Yes.
Avoid them.
Yes.
I don't feel like, I don't want to cry now. I don't want that grief.
Yeah.
Grief. I don't want to grieve now.
Yeah.
I just want to avoid all the negative feelings.
I have that deeply. I think there is different coping mechanisms that we develop, and I think we all have them inside ourselves. But I think some of them are more prominent than others. And also in attachment style, there's the avoidant attachment style, there's the anxious attachment style, there's the secure attachment style. And for me, I have the tendency that there's a part of me more avoidant, also with emotions. And I really train myself. It's still a very prominent, sometimes automatic response that I don't want to feel. And then I'm doing things, I'm distracting myself. I just go on about my life, or I just avoid situations that can bring something up.
Right.
But what happens more and more to me is that I really understand, feeling all the emotions actually makes me feel so much better. And it's so good for the energy to flow. And there's so many for my mind, not even like on a physical level and on a spiritual, energetic level, but also for my mind to understand, oh, it's really amazing to feel emotions. It's really good.
Yeah.
That by now, whenever I cry, there's a part of me that's happy.
Yes.
Because I had a session like months ago, really deep, and I was really working on like deep parts of myself, and I was crying a lot, and I was also smiling. And then the therapist, she was like, so can I ask you, like, she was just reflecting. She was like, so you're really crying, and I really feel like you're really in pain, and you're also smiling. So what is that? And then I said to her, that's the part of me that understands that what we're doing right now and what I'm feeling right now is amazing. Wow. That I have the capacity to feel that I can hold myself in that. So it's almost like, Leonie sometimes says, like also in immersion, you can get a little bit like, splitted personalities, because all of a sudden you have a capacity to hold different parts of yourself at the same time.
Wow.
And I think increasing the capacity in that also makes a difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'll just bring us back like just 10
Yes.
minutes ago, just for a second, just
No,
for
please.
just a little sneak peek. It was just, sometimes it's also hard for us to do it ourselves. Like it's, for me, it's like really, sometimes it's difficult to like sit. I know that there's something in there, because there's a lot of like voices in my head, like you shouldn't feel that way, because many voices and thoughts. And sometimes we do need those, that like co-regulations that I've learned during the immersion. And like sometimes I just need you to be like, Zach, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah.
You're so allowed to feel that way because of many, many reasons. And like, just give me a hug and like, just like to help me.
Yeah.
And it can be with anything, any emotions, like, like just, you can be in a party and like, you can help me, like, like cheer me up, or like just to help me to get those emotions out. And sometimes it's very hard to do it by yourself.
Yeah. It's again what we say, like with the kids, they need someone to co-regulate.
Yeah.
They cannot regulate themselves. But also as adults, if I feel there is in our nervous system, it doesn't see through the eye. It feels, So if you're there with me physically also, and I can relax in you, and I really feel that you are, and that's also something we practice in the immersion. How can I hold space for someone without losing myself? Like, how can I be there with the other in the emotion? I can feel your pain, but I'm not losing myself in that. I'm not trying to, I think often what happens is we always say, like, if I could, I would take it from you. Like, if I could take your pain, I would. Like,
yes, a mother will say something like that.
And that's beautiful, but it's not necessarily deeply helpful, because we need to feel it ourselves. But if I'm there with you and I really hold you, then you can feel it.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm taking it from you, and then maybe I cannot grow so much. Like kids who are like super pampered, like everything was always done for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not so like, they cannot help themselves so much in the world.
Yeah.
They're not like so outgoing themselves because it was always done for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think again, like being in connection, being in tribe, really helps. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I was quite curious. I think I mentioned that in some ways at the beginning of this episode, that as a nomad, and like we're kind of like sharing the same feeling more or less, like we're away from of our families, of our childhood friends, our just natural languages or culture. And often I feel like, how do I bring that feeling of home into my life? And how do I bring that, if for instance, like home is in you, like home is where you are, like home is where you decided, all these like nice slogans, no disrespect. But still, it was hard for me to resonate deeply with that slogan. Home is where you decided to be, or home is inside you. But I realized during the immersion very deeply what that slogan means. like the people that I felt connected with during my life, and I'm sure there will be in the future people like that. Like I want to keep them close, but what do I do when they're not close? When we are on an island, when we are alone in this guest house somewhere in the end of the world, how do we connect to that energy without, how do we live this life and walk around the world when no one holds a space, when there's no one? It's just us needing to walk as a child and no one holds us when we fall.
I think for me, for a long time, it was a bit different because you said like, yeah, you're a nomad and like the country and your language and your people and whatever. And when I listen to you, I feel that you felt that this was your country, or that this is your country and this is your people, and that you feel very connected to it. And I think for me, it wasn't that for a long time. So I grew up in Germany, in Munich, and in a beautiful place, and with a loving family and with parents that did their best. Like, they're not perfect, but yeah, they did their best. And nice neighborhood. I had everything that you can wish for in a way. But I didn't felt what I said, like I didn't felt belonging. I didn't felt at home. I felt a lot of guilt and shame around being German. I really, took me a long time to understand, but I think there's still a lot of unprocessed guilt and shame from the Second World War in Germany.
Okay.
And I think for some reason I really plugged into that. And I really felt like deeply shame, deeply guilt. And it took me a long time to understand that this is not mine, that this has nothing to do with me as a person now. And that this is something collective.
Wow.
And this is something that my grandparents, my parents, the generations before us haven't processed yet. And of course, like there's a part in us that, like it's good for us to process some of the collective, but it's not healthy to plug in too deeply in unprocessed collective stuff. And I think it was one part for me that I didn't. So for me, actually, speaking English feels much more, I feel much more confident in it, much more comfortable. I feel I can describe my emotions better. I can better connect to myself. I didn't fully resonate to the lifestyle, even though I was living it for a long time. I really went down like the normal path. So for me, the life that I'm living now, I just feel so much more at home. I feel so much more, I think I'm following my heart. And I think following your heart in a way will always allow you to feel at home on the planet. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you really follow your soul mission and your heart, you will find the right people, you will find the right places, life is supporting you. And also understanding that, I think what you said, like, yeah, we met 1.5 weeks ago, it feels like so much longer. So there's ways and tools that we can have deep connections with people beyond the time and space that we actually know them. And I think a lot of participants also like shared it in the integration session that, okay, now I have this feeling and I have this deep connection. How do I actually bring it to my family? Because maybe I know my family since I was born, but maybe I don't feel deeply connected to them. Maybe it's more like the blood and the experiences and the story of like, this is our family and, but maybe I don't actually know who they really are, or I maybe never have shared. I mean, I know for myself that I'm still working on that and there's so much more potential. And I had a really beautiful conversation the last time I was in Germany with my parents, where both of them cried.
Wow.
And I think I never had, like, it was such a deep, vulnerable, raw conversation where I was also able to share disappointments and share struggles and share where I'm still struggling on my relationship with men because of my relationship with my dad. And I was able to say that to him.
So you were vulnerable.
I was really vulnerable, and it came from a place of, I shared it with you because I want you to get to know me better, not from a place of it's your fault.
Do you ever felt, maybe before you started your path, your journey, that it's their responsibility, like they should deal with that? Like, they brought me to life, they need to fix me, or they need to work with me, and the door is not fully open, it's not locked, but you should open it, you should come in, you should strike it, you should initiate it. Did you ever feel like yours? I'm here, but it's yours.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think it came in later. I think for a while I was not even expecting. Again, like not even thinking that they have to do something, because then I could get disappointed, I could get rejected. So let's just not even expect anything.
Yeah.
Also for a long time, it took me a while to figure out that what I was missing was actually deep emotional connection. Because on a material level, like they were very supportive. There was a lot of support. And then I thought like, oh yeah, they have to go to therapy. They have to work. They have to look at their things. They have to do this. Yeah, they're my parents. They, and
Yeah,
I
they need
think
to operate me. You brought me to life.
there's a little child in me that's like, it's their job, and maybe they messed up this and and I think that's also okay.
Yeah.
To be like, these are my parents, and at the same time understanding they have been doing the work differently. I think that's something that I came to peace with, is to understand that every generation, if we look at it, has been doing the work as much as they could, as much as they had capacity. If you don't have capacity because there's a war, because the society, when my parents grew up, the society was different than now. Therapy was looked at as like, you have to be really mentally ill
you're not right
to go to therapy.
Yeah.
So I think understanding that they have been doing the work as much as they could, and I have more capacity, and I also choose, and for some reason, this is also my life's path. It's understanding I'm doing it for me, I'm not doing it for them.
Right.
And then
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah. And I think that heals a lot. And starting to work for me with ancestral healing, and really seeing that the traumas that I have, I thought, it's my parents to blame. They didn't, but they actually got their trauma, it's a never-ending story.
Right.
It's a never-ending story of traumas and potential that we got from our ancestors and from society and collective. So as long as we look outside in someone else to fix something, it's a never-ending story.
It's a never-ending story.
No.
So acceptance and the road to that.
Yeah.
Acceptance. Even though like I don't agree with anything that my parents do, it is just an example because my parents, I accept them for what they are.
Yeah.
It took me a while to accept my dad. And it like my mom and I are just like same, but it's also like we have those like mother and son struggles. But I accept them. I won't say fully, but I understand.
Yeah.
But the road to acceptance, and it doesn't mean acceptance, it means like I support what you're doing or I'm agreeing with what you're doing, and I idealize the way you treat me as a parent. But in some ways I took myself out of that situation, and not for you, for me.
Right.
And that gives so much peace of mind.
Right. And it's the same with forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Sometimes I think a lot of only myself, like forgiveness for me was also something like being weak or being accepting the behavior and like so that it was okay. No. Forgiveness you do for yourself. Again, like you don't do it for the other. You don't do it to free the other or whatever. Like you do it to free yourself.
Yes.
And whatever we hold, I always see it like we have so many energetic connections with so many people. Maybe people we haven't spoken to in years, but there's still something that's like, I'm still holding anger, or I'm still resentment, or whatever. And the more we can let go of this, the more energy is set it free and can be transformed in something else. Wow. And we can use to work on our mission, to go into new relationships, to create something new. I really realized when I was in Europe in summer, I realized like how many old connections there's still something holding.
Wow.
And I reached out to my ex-partner. I reached out to one person that was really important on my spiritual journey. I reached out to an ex-lover that I felt like I was holding a lot of anger still. And I reached out to all of them, saying like, hey, I really would love to have a conversation, like different messages in different ways of like, with my ex-partner, I just told him like, hey, I would really love to see you. Still so much in my dreams, in my consciousness. I felt like we broke up and then we never really saw each other again. But at the same time, I was like, if all of them, if they don't want to speak, it's okay. But I feel like I want to reach out. And then I met like with one of them, I had a phone call, and I'm going to meet my ex-partner when I'm back. And having these conversations and sharing, actually they were all so pure and vulnerable and beautiful and resolving. Like a lot of things that I felt like was still running, and did you really rejected me back then, or did I like still feel guilt towards you, or
Let's start.
And it freed a lot of capacity. So I think that's something that, if we understand that holding resentment and anger, and we need to feel that for a while. Also, for a while in my life, I was too quick in going into, oh, we're all one, I forgive you. No, but then I'm not actually feeling the emotion. So, like I need to feel the anger, and then I can go into the forgiveness. If I want to skip this part, it doesn't work out.
No.
You bury it somewhere, but it's still there.
Yes.
It's still running. So finding like this way of how can I really actually forgive and move on, and then have a new relationship. I feel like I'm finding a new relationship with my parents. I'm finding a new relationship with people, because relationships changing. I'm changing. They're changing. We're transforming. Hopefully.
Yeah, all the time. Yes, thankfully.
And the suffering comes when we still hold on to like, oh, but you're my mother. You need to take care of me.
Yeah. Wow, Veronika. I could stay here for another 2 hours.
It's we are in timeless space.
Timeless space.
We are in the Shala.
Timeless conversation. I would really recommend, and I do already do that, to come and join the Tantra from the Heart workshop. You're going to have a break now in Europe for the month of September, October 2024. And you'll be back in Copenhagen in December.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna be in Ireland and Portugal now, and then from December on we're gonna be in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen again.
December till April.
Yes. So if you are in Copenhagen or outside of Copenhagen, you listen to this podcast, and you want to be part of an amazing life experience, book yourself a ticket and come to Copenhagen, because it's really worth it. It's really worth it.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much.
I would like to thank you for this conversation. It was very, very inspiring. It was very profound.
Yeah.
And thank you for what I've learned from you.
Thank you.
And from the workshop.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having this beautiful conversation. I feel like I learned a lot about myself also. For me, I also feel like that's how it works. Like when I share, I actually realize things. And thank you for being together on the journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode or you think it can inspire other people, please feel free to share it. See you in the next episode of Wild Shift.